for the nomination of appointment as chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya. And this is a report by the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning of the National Assembly and the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget of the Senate on the vetting of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment as the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya, pursuant to Section 11(2)(a) of the Central Bank of Kenya Act and also Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011. And once approved by the Senate, and then he will be appointed into that office and serve for a term of 4 years, renewable for a further term of 4 years by the President. Among the bills that are listed today for Committee of the Whole will be the Persons with Disabilities Bill, and this is sponsored by Senator Crystal Asige. And this bill seeks to ensure that the rights of the persons with disabilities under Article 54 of the Constitution are well taken into, and this bill has a human rights approach. And then there is also the Startup Bill. This is a bill also sponsored by Senator Crystal Asige, and this bill has brought a lot of startups flooding to the country. It was sponsored initially by the Senator for Nairobi, Senator Johnson Sakaja, who is the current governor for Nairobi. Still on the order paper today are several questions, and they are listed. There is a question by Senator Godfrey Ososi, the MP, the Senator for Vihiga County, on the housing and regarding the status of construction of stadiums in Vihiga County. And there is also the question and statement from the Senator for Meru County, the Deputy Speaker. He seeks a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation and Housing regarding the designation of the Kenya Association of Bus Manufacturers as a conformity assessment provider. There is also on the order paper petitions, and among the petitions is a petition to the Senate by Mr. Taratisio Ireri Kawe concerning introduction of an amendment, introduction of an amendment to the Constitution of Kenya and other relevant laws on the election of the Deputy President and the Deputy Governors, and also a petition to the Senate by Mr. Lennox M. Mshila concerning discrimination in the payment of hardship allowance to teachers in Taita Taveta County. That is brought by Senator Johannes Mwaruma, who is the Senator for Taita Taveta County. There is also a question. Okay. You can see the speaker is entering the chamber. And the sergeant at arms are carrying the mace symbolizing the authority of Parliament, of the Senate rather. And the presiding speaker today will be the Deputy Speaker. So we hand you over to the Senate for proceedings.
Tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tunakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amina. Clerk, can you ascertain whether we have a requisite quorum? Then I request the Sergeant at Arms to ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, yeah.
The quorum bell is being rung for 10 minutes. That is under Standing Order 40. That states if there is no quorum at the beginning of the Senate, that is once the prayer is read, then the quorum bell is rung for 10 minutes, and then the quorum now, the Sergeant at Arms rings the bell for 10 minutes to ascertain that there is a quorum. And once quorum is achieved now, that is when the House now begins its business. And under Standing Order 40, that is quorum at the commencement of a sitting of the Senate. The standing orders provide if there is no quorum present when the chair is taken at the time appointed for a sitting of the Senate, the Speaker shall immediately after the prayer order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. And under also that Standing Order 40, if no quorum is present at the expiration of 10 minutes, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 10 minutes. And if there is still no quorum present, the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate forthwith to the next sitting. Just to take you through the business that the Senate will consider today, as we await for the quorum. There is, on the order paper, the prompt payment bill. This is a bill that is sponsored by Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar for prompt payment of Kenyans who provide services to the government. That is, whether you provide services in terms of any works or any goods to the government, then the bill proposes that these be paid promptly. And then there is also the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bills number 14, that is sponsored by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. And this is on the administration of that fund. The fund is established under Article 203 of the Constitution of Kenya that provides for the Equalization Fund.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
On the Honorable Senators, take your seats kindly. My Honorable Senators, I have a petition to the Senate by Mr. Tarasisio Ireri Kawe concerning amendment to the Constitution of Kenya and other relevant laws on the election of the Deputy President and the Deputy Governor. Honorable Senators, I hereby report to the Senate that a petition has been submitted to the Senate by Mr. Tarasisio Ireri Kawe concerning an amendment to the Constitution of Kenya and other relevant laws on the election of the Deputy President and the Deputy County Governor. 2, as you are aware that under Article 119(1) of the Constitution, and I quote, every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any registration. Honorable Senators, the salient issues raised in this petition are A, the Articles 136.1 and 137.1 of the Constitution provides for the mechanism by which the President is elected. Further, Articles 148.1 and 149.1 of the Constitution provides for the mechanism by which the Deputy President is nominated and the mechanism by which the Senate position is filled in the event there is a vacancy, respectively. And B, that Article 108 of the Constitution provides for the mechanism by which a county governor and a deputy county governor are elected. Further, Article 182 of the Constitution provides for the mechanism through which the position of a county governor is filled should a vacancy arise. And C, that the aforementioned provisions of the Constitution on nomination of a deputy president that the aforementioned provisions of the Constitution or the nomination of a deputy president and filling of a vacancy in which office of a county governor by the deputy governor and subsequent to nomination of a deputy governor by the new governor give rise to a situation where these positions are taken up by non-elected and in some cases unpopular leaders. And D, that there is a need to amend the Constitution and other relevant laws to allow for a democratic process where citizens are given an opportunity to elect office holders in the position of the deputy president and deputy governor in order to protect the citizens of Kenya from being run by non-elected and unpopular leaders. And E, that provision to be made in the Constitution stating that should be the office of the deputy president for vacant, a cabinet secretary and the national government acts as the deputy president for a period of 6 months to give time to a substantive deputy president to be elected. And F, that should a vacancy arise in the office of the deputy county governor, the county secretary acts as the deputy governor for a period of 6 months until substantive deputy governor is elected. And number 4, the petitioner therefore prays that the Senate intervenes in this matter and introduces amendments to the Constitution and other relevant laws to provide for, 1, a mechanism in which the office of the deputy president and that of deputy county governor are elected into office. And number 2, prayer number 2, and by election in the office of the deputy president after assumption to the office of president by an elected deputy president. Number 3, and by election in the office of the deputy county governor after assumption of the office of the county governor by an elected deputy governor. And 4, a mechanism by which the president has the power to appoint a cabinet secretary in an acting capacity to the office of the deputy president in the event of a vacancy for a period of 6 months until a substantive deputy president is elected. And prayer number 5, the last one, a mechanism by which the county governor has the power to appoint the county secretary in the acting capacity to the office of deputy governor in the event of a vacancy for a period of 6 months until a substantive deputy governor is elected. Honorable Senator, find your way to the nearest seat till we conclude. So, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 237, I shall now allow comments, observations, or clarifications in relation to the petition for not more than 30 minutes. But if you allow me, I can request the next petition by Senator Mwaruma to read it out, and then we can combine those comments. Senator Mwaruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will read this petition on behalf of the petitioners. We, the undersigned, citizens of the Republic of Kenya, being the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Taita Taveta branch wish to present this petition to the Senate on behalf of all teachers who do not get hardship allowance in Taita Taveta County. We humbly draw the attention of the Senate to the following: that all Taita Taveta County teachers qualified to be paid hardship allowance as per legal notice number 534 of 1997 and as per the 13th July 2021 collective bargaining agreement between Teachers Service Commission and Kenya National Union of Teachers and Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers and the Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers, KUSNET. 2, that despite the existence of legal notice 534 of 1997 and the 13th July 2021 collective bargaining agreement, not all teachers working in Taita Taveta County benefit from hardship allowance. That Teachers Service Commission pays hardship allowance to teachers teaching in Voi and part of Matate sub-counties, leaving out the following areas: A, Taveta sub-county; B, Taita sub-county; C, Rongezon of Matate sub-county; D, Mbololo Secondary School and John Mark Mwanjuma Secondary School of Voi sub-county. 4, that teachers in these areas need the allowance to cushion them against the following: A, insecurity caused by marauding wild animals from Tsavo National Park; B, high cost of water due to lack of clean water and drought; C, high cost of travel due to impassable roads, occasional floods, and due to remoteness; D, high cost of housing due to lack of rental houses within the vicinity of the schools; E, too much work caused by understaffing; F, high cost of medical care due to unavailability of medical facilities; G, high communication costs due to poor network coverage. 5, that there is no justification to discriminately pay hardship allowance to some areas in Taita Taveta County and leave out others, since these areas have comparatively similar characteristics in terms of climate, topography, security situation, and availability of social amenities. 6, that it is surprising that some of the most marginalized areas in the county, like Rongezon in Matate sub-county, Kishushe in Taita sub-county, and Chala in Taveta sub-county, are denied hardship allowance while others are getting. 7, that unlike TSC, the Commission on Revenue Allocation identified Chala Ward in Taveta sub-county as the most marginalized area in Taita Taveta County to benefit from Equalization Fund. 8, that teachers are reluctant to take up teaching positions in areas that are not entitled to hardship allowances and thus causing staffing problems, which has adversely affected performance and general development of these areas. 9, that Teachers Service Commission's failure to pay hardship allowance to teachers working in Taita or in Taveta and Wundanyi sub-counties amounts to discrimination and unfair remuneration, and thus contravening Article 27 and Article 41 of the Constitution of Kenya. 10, that Kenya National Union of Teachers officials and other leaders have made every effort to resolve the matters raised in this petition without success. 11, that there is no case pending in a court of law, constitutional, or any other legal body on the matters raised in this petition. Herefore, your humble petitioners pray that the Senate through the relevant committee, 1, investigates and finds that Teachers Service Commission's selective payment of hardship allowance to some teachers in Taita Taveta County and leaving out others is unjustified and discriminatory. 2, recommends that Teachers Service Commission pays hardship allowance to all teachers working in Taita Taveta County without any further discrimination. 3, takes any other appropriate action it deems fit, and your petitioners will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mwaruma. Honorable Senators, before I give you the 30 minutes window, I want to honor members. Senator Murango. And who is this senator on the floor? Honorable Senators, we have a visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Vihiga. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Vihiga comprising members of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and its Secretariat. The delegation is undertaking a benchmarking visit with their counterpart in the Senate. Honorable Senators, I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. Honorable Helen Mwanika, Chairperson of the committee. Honorable Richard Muhiga, Vice Chairperson. Honorable Wimsi Osore, Member. Honorable Patrick Kigumba, Member. Honorable David Ojiri, Member. Honorable Rita Atieno, Member. Honorable Helam Esipila, Member. Honorable Grandis Yalwala, Member. Honorable Fela Ajega, Member. Then we have the following: Rogers Obuhuma, Committee Clerk. Aston Emire, Researcher. John Kibisu, Senior Sergeant at Arms. And Daisy Nyandiko answered. Honorable Senators, in a usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator for Vihiga County, 2 minutes, just to acknowledge and welcome your visitors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to welcome the honorable MCS from my county of Vihiga, who are in this Senate for benchmarking. Mr. Speaker, this morning we had a very wonderful meeting with the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, where we exchanged a lot of information with the honorable MCS from Vihiga. I think this kind of thing needs to be strengthened between the Senate and our county assemblies. I know all the members who are here representing various wards in Vihiga County. We have encouraged them to continue with their good work of oversight, to oversight the county executive of Vihiga. And as you know, the MCS play an important role of primary oversight. So I call upon this Senate. We have a number of issues which are pending before us, one of it being the unresolved issue with the SRC. I want to call upon this Senate, the relevant committees which are handling this matter, to handle it with speed so that our leaders who represent us in the wards are empowered to perform their role of oversight. Otherwise, Honorable MCS, welcome. And I'm also pleased to note that the MCS were conducted around by one of our great personality from Vihiga County, who is now our staff, and that is Collins Njera, who is the most prolific rugby player of our time. Thank you very much, Honorable MCS, and welcome, and learn more and apply what you learn in your oversight role in Vihiga County, which I think requires more oversight than ever before. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to use my own discretion to allow the chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate, because that committee is a Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs of Vihiga County. Now, Chairman Jailak, can you welcome these other your counterparts from the County Assembly of Vihiga? Senator Sigei Wakiri.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, I praised the intervention pattern when you asked the Honorable Senator Sotsi to welcome his guests, or rather visitors. Indeed, the team led by Honorable Monica Helen from the Vihiga County Assembly were my guests and my committee in the morning. And we welcomed Senator Sotsi as a friend to the committee. And so I want to appreciate him for creating time in the morning to join us. And more importantly, to thank the team from the Vihiga County Assembly for the great experience that we shared in the morning. Honorable Speaker, earlier on in the last session, we had a number of county assemblies that came in, and it was quite surprising that a number of them did not have justice and legal affairs committees in the assemblies, but this particular county assembly had their team working closely with the mandate that JLAC in the Senate and JLAC at the level of the county assembly is mandated to do. And we indeed, as Osoti said, shared quite a lot of programs which we can engage and also support both at the county level in order to make sure that we enhance the protection of devolution of and the functions of devolution. And I want to encourage them to take home the experiences that we shared in the morning. And Honorable Speaker, we shared a number of very good experiences that they have had in their guest in Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. I wish them the best as they enjoy their experience and learning in the Senate. I thank you.
Thank you, Chair Jailak. Now we go to the 30 minutes we do for the petitions, comments on the petitions. And if we don't need to utilize the 30 minutes, if we can use even 20 or so, it will be okay. I want to today give the leadership of the House the first priority. And I start with Senator Olekina Rendama, Minority Whip.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the two petitions. And I will start by supporting the petition which has been read by Senator Mwaruma. Mr. Speaker, in this country today, our teachers are suffering. In fact, I've been agonizing on what to do, either to bring another petition here because of the welfare of the teachers. We have over 30,000 teachers who have died, and they have not been compensated as per the law. Their families have not been compensated. We pass laws in this country, in this House. We have the PSSS Act, which we pass to ensure that there is personal liability or disability, but the teachers are never compensated. Now we have a crisis where, in fact, everybody has been talking about the challenges that the teachers go through in Northeastern. The teachers have been crying to the Teacher Service Commission and say, transfer us there. Today, we have another challenge of teachers who are living in very dilapidated hardship areas like Taita Taveta and also Narok County, Mr. Speaker. These teachers are the ones who are responsible for us to be here. We don't care about our teachers. Mr. Speaker, it's about time that this House prioritize these teachers. Whenever I go back to my rural area, and I meet people who taught me, persons who I believe are the ones who contributed to me being here, I feel very sorry for them. So I want to support this petition, and I hope that when the committee is going to be looking at this, we can extend it to other parts of this country. Narok County, Kajiado County, Lamu County, Garissa County, Kitui. You know, we just have to be realistic. You know, Mr. Speaker, in a few years' time, and I like because everybody is aware of this, in 100 years, none of us will be here. In 50 years, maybe most of us will not be here, we'll be gone. And in 100 years, we'll be forgotten. Can we do something that at least maybe the future generation will think about us? And they'll say they supported my great-grandmother who was a teacher, who was living, who could not be able to get a house, who would trek, use a motorbike to go to school, to be able to make sure that we have leaders in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I support that, and I want to really call upon the Teacher Service Commission. If there is an agreement that you've passed, why not commit to it? Why are we having this bad behavior where we are quick to sign a covenant, but then we are very fast in running away from it? So this petition, I fully support. Now I go to the second petition, which is of paramount importance. A few years ago, Mr. Speaker, we had a very interesting situation in this country, Nairobi County, when the former governor, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, was impeached by this House. In fact, I'll go on record in saying I did not impeach Sonko. And some of the challenges that we faced while Sonko was impeached is that by the time Sonko was impeached, his deputy, whom he had chosen as per the Constitution, had resigned. There was no law. But then we referred back to the law and we started thinking what the framers of the Constitution had in mind when they say that the person to be elected has got to choose someone to be his running mate or her running mate. What we forgot is that the people we represent in this House do not only vote for a governor, they look at the entire team. So I think this amendment or proposal or petition is something worth looking at. I think it may require a referendum, but it's something worth for us to be able to debate. We have the issues of the deputy governors as well. We have the issues of the deputy president. It is very interesting because when you read the Constitution, one of the qualifications for a person to be able to serve as a deputy governor or deputy president is that he or she must have the qualification to be elected as a governor. But there's an interesting thing here, which I think is something that we need to discuss. The petition introduces something saying, with the way we are dealing with issues currently, we get somebody who is not popular. So are we electing people who are popular, or are we electing people who the Constitution said they can qualify to become elected as either president or governor? So I think it's important. I don't necessarily maybe agree with the suggestions that the petitioner is suggesting, that maybe a governor nominates a county secretary or the president nominates a cabinet secretary. But these are things which we can legislate on, we can discuss. And it has come at a very good time, Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about the national dialogue. You know, the committee which is led by, on our side, by the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and on the other side by Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader of the National Assembly, is calling upon people. Maybe it is time that this petitioner also submits his views in that national dialogue. If we are talking about fixing this country for future generation, not for us. You know, Mr. Speaker, we can spend all the time accumulating all the wealth. But I just want to remind us that we are only here for a very short time. So, Mr. Speaker, I support these petitions, both of them, for us to think about the future, not about us. Let's think about the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, you know, we risk the 30 minutes to be utilized by 2-3 members. So I want to give further direction that every member should take 2 minutes maximum, just to make a comment. This is not a debate, but just a comment. Senator Chalgei Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want from the onset to support the petition.
Today, what is the problem with your eyesight?
No, I've been seeing wonderful things that the president has done until it has shocked my eyes, but I'm recovering. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to support the petition by Senator Johannes Mwaruma over the hardship allowance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even us in Nandi County, many people assume that we are in a land of Canaan, of honey and milk. But when you go to some areas like Terik Ward in Aldai, some areas in Tindred, and some areas in Masop, Mr. Speaker, we also need hardship allowances. So it doesn't mean that Taita alone, I think most of the part of the country, Mr. Speaker, is to have an opportunity of ensuring that we get hardship allowance and ensure that our teachers, Mr. Speaker, I think the biggest enemy of teachers in this country is Teacher Service Commission. We have had incessant complaints of non-payment to teachers who retired in 1997. Mr. Speaker, we saw teachers embarrassingly standing at TSC because their lives are in danger in northern part of Kenya, where daily they are being butchered and massacred and killed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think it's the high time that TSC does their job. And in fact, there is a proposal that they are being floated around, Mr. Speaker. For example, Judicial Service Commission, the chairperson of JSC is Chief Justice Martha Koome. Why don't we have one of the union leaders of this organization of teachers being the chairperson of TSC or CEO of TSC, so that they understand? They say in where Mohammed Fake comes from, Mr. Speaker, kikulacho kinguo ni mwako, kiko ndani ya nguo yako, mheshimiwa. Mr. Speaker, they say kikulacho kinguo ni mwako, haiwezi kukuramba, Mr. Speaker. So we need somebody who is part of it so that the mess, Mr. Speaker, can be sorted out. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the petition on election and of deputy governors and deputy president, I think those are issues that will go to popular initiative and referendum. I think the Justice and Legal Affairs should not waste their time, because those are things that will end up in popular initiative, Mr. Speaker. To allow my colleagues to add on this petition, allow me to rest there, and thank you, and I support both petitions.
Next is Senator Manzo Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to comment on the two petitions. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, I support the two petitions, but I want to say that on the one dealing with the Deputy President and dealing with the Deputy Governor, Mr. Speaker, that can only go to a referendum. And although it's a good suggestion to this House, probably it is also be forwarded to the committee dealing with the bipartisan issues. It is one of the sensitive issues because from the case of Governor Songo, the former governor of Nairobi, immediately there was a vacant, there was a very big problem on how to refill it, and by refilling it, there was quite a system. The way the two systems work, Mr. Speaker, is that the Assembly has now to elect a new deputy, and in the case of a deputy president, it is the Parliament has to elect a new deputy president. And I think that doesn't go back to the people, but to the representatives of the people. Therefore, it's a matter which needs to be dealt with by all Kenyans in accordance with the current constitution. On the issue of the teachers and hardship allowance, Mr. Speaker, it is very, very nasty for a teacher to be sent in a hardship area where they have to pass elephants while going to teach, and in fact, the school they teach at, there are no facilities near there. They have to travel. And that's not only happening in Taita Taveta, it is also happening in other parts of the country, including Makueni. And therefore, it is a matter which we should take seriously, and it's a matter which we need to summon TSC here to this House, and probably the Minister of Education, Mr. Speaker, so that that when a teacher is doing their work, They should love it, they should feel free that they are doing it, and they should feel sufficiently compensated for any hardships they are going through. Teachers have been killed by elephants, and they have not been compensated up to date while they are on duty. Teachers have been killed in banditry areas, and they have not been compensated up to today. Their families have been left to suffer. And therefore, it's a high time we rose to protect our teachers and made sure that this hardship allowance is availed with immediate effect so that our teachers, who are very important, can educate our children with freedom and give them the best so that they can have a future like ourselves. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Okay, thank you, Senator William Kipkemoi Kisan.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the petition by the senator from Taita Taveta. Honorable Speaker, it's unfortunate that some teachers in that county get hardship allowance and others don't get. You know, it's basically discrimination because what the senator has enumerated, I mean, so many things. The place is hardship, basically it's semi-arid. There are many wild animals going through Wainanables there. The roads are bad. There is no water. And they have water they supply to counties in the coast, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale, and themselves they don't have water. So these teachers are suffering. They deserve to be given hardship. And it's not basically, Honorable Speaker, Taita Taveta alone. Many parts of the country, as my colleague has said, Makueni County, Kitui, Narok, and many others. So TSC and the other ministries and departments, they need to sit down, map out the country, and those who deserve to be given hardship allowance, they get hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the first petition that came through your office about the Deputy President and the Deputy Governors, I believe, Honorable Speaker, we should not waste time on that particular petition. It should go to the dialogue committee because it's a referendum issue. When you are campaigning as a president with a running mate or a governor, you get somebody that you can work together with. So this house cannot just amend because you need to have chemistry to work together. If we go for a general election for a deputy governor or a deputy president, then basically that is it's a room for chaos. Even though I know currently 80% of the governors are not seeing eye to eye with the deputies. You know, they only took them maybe for election to win elections. And then after that, they start fighting. Honorable Speaker, I support the one on hardship. And on this other one, we don't have to waste a lot of time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next is Senator Onyonka Lichan. Senator Ososi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, quickly, let me comment on the second petition on hardship allowance for teachers in Taita Taveta. I think it's important to the committee that is going to look into this, which is Education Committee, to not only look at the challenges teachers are facing in Taita Taveta, but also look at the entire 47 counties, because this problem is common in many counties. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, even as we are talking about hardship allowances for teachers, I think we also need to ask for the review of the criteria in identifying hardship areas. Because we have areas which clearly are difficult areas to stay in, but they are not listed as hardship areas. And yet we have teachers who are supposed to work there. I think those two issues can go together so that the committee can look at the criteria of listing places as hardship areas. In my county, we do not have any area that is listed as a hardship area. And yet, clearly, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you there are some areas which are very difficult to stay in Vihiga County. And we don't even qualify for equalization fund. So the criteria for determination of all these things, Mr. Speaker, is also key, so that we do not discriminate teachers who deserve to be given hardship allowance. On the second issue, Mr. Speaker, a request for the constitution amendment, I want to agree with colleagues that I think is now a constitutional moment, because this constitution has been in place for about 12 years now, and there is increasing request for constitutional amendment. I think it's a high time that this country sat down and re-looked at this constitution, what is working and what is not working. For example, Mr. Speaker, this idea of deputy governor, if you ask me, Mr. Speaker, I would say that governors don't really need a deputy governor. Yeah, because when there is a vacancy in the office of the governor, people should go to an election so that we don't have a scenario where someone comes into office as a deputy governor and then something happens to the governor, is not there, then this man becomes governor and he has not been elected by the people. So this is a very serious matter which this committee of JLAC should look into.
Your term is up. Senator James Kamau Murango.
Asante sana Mr. Speaker. Mimi ningetaka kuunga mkono mswada ambao uliletwa na shemeji yangu Johannes Mwaruma, Senator wa Taita Taveta. Mr. Speaker, shida ambayo iko ya walimu ambao hawapewi pesa ambazo wanafaa kupewa wenye wanafunza katika maeneo magumu, nadhani ni swala nyeti kwa sababu kama sehemu niliyotoka Kirinyaga ni kwamba imekuwa shinda kubwa kwamba hata watoto ambao wanafaa kwenda katika shule katika eneo la Mwea.
Samani kidogo, seneta wa Kirinyaga. Dini swara yako ni ipi Ososi Godfrey, seneta wa Vihiga? Hoja ya nidhamu yako ni kuhusu nini?
Mr. Speaker, you know this is a house of order and rules. And the substantive speaker made a ruling on the dressing in this chamber and it disallowed the short-sleeved in this house. My good friend, the senator for Kirinyaga, is putting on a short-sleeved jacket. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker?
Okay. I'm reliably informed that the senator for Kirinyaga has been around to wear that way because of some other reasons. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, ningeomba Senator wa Vihiga hawe anakuja katika hiki kikao ili kujua mambo inavyoendelea, Mr. Speaker. Kwa sababu hilo jambo lilitatuliwa kitambo sana. Na kwa sababu ya hiyo, kwa sababu sana Mheshimiwa Speaker anakuja na itirafiana na mtiririko wa mawazo. Nikija kurudia chenye nataka kurudia ashaniharibia. Nilikuwa nasema ya kwamba katika Kirinyaga
kuna hoja zingine mbili za nidhamu kuhusu sijui ni ile sare umevaa ama ni sijui ni kwa nini. Samani tu dakika moja tena. Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, it is important that when you give such direction, you make it clear under what provision of the law he has been allowed to dress like that, because there are no rules for specific or individual senators. The rules that are applied apply to all of us. So that if there is some unique understanding or reason, then we should know so that I also go and save money on material. Instead of bringing a full sleeve, I can wear half sleeve.
Senator Sifuna, you know, when I don't disclose some matters, some of the issues are private. And that is why I did not disclose. As a professional, I did not try to say the reason, but I said there is genuine reason that was given by the speaker to wear that way. I don't need to disclose whether maybe he has itchy arms or he has some problems in his body. So when the speaker gives direction, you just go by my direction kindly. So you're out of order, Senator Sifuna. Senator Boni, also you had another point of order.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot forever be wasting the time of this House on issue of dress code. Mr. Speaker, having pronounced yourself that there is a special circumstance that allows not just Senator Murango, but any other senator to enjoy that exception, then in the same breath, just clarify which that condition it is, so that should it be that Senator Sifuna has a similar condition, he can stand guided, Mr. Speaker.
Now proceed and conclude, kindly.
Mstahiki Spika, naona tukiendelea hivi itabidi wengine tutoe nguo hivi ili kudhihirisha shinda zenye tuko nazo. Kwa sababu Mstahiki Spika, siwezi toa nguo nikiambiwa na Mheshimiwa Sifuna nitoe kwa sababu ni mwanaume kama mimi. Mstahiki Spika, nilikuwa nasema kwamba zile shinda ambazo tuko nazo katika eneo la Kirinyaga pia zinaambatana na mswada ambao umeletwa katika bunge hili na shemeji yangu Seneta wa Taita Taveta Johannes Mwaruma. Kwa sababu unaona ya kwamba ukienda katika mpaka Kirinyaga na Embu ambako walimu katika mazingira ambayo yanayofanana, wengine wanapewa pesa za ziada kwa sababu ya mazingira magumu na wengine hawapewi. Ukiangalia kama ni mambo na lishe ya watoto wa shule za chekechea, watoto wengi kutoka eneo la Kirinyaga wanabidi wavuke pande ile ingine kwa sababu kuna lishe, na ili hali Kirinyaga mazingira ni yale yale. Kwa hivyo ningeuliza ya kwamba mambo kama yale yaweze kuzingatiwa kwa njia inayofaa ili kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usawa katika wale walimu wanafunza katika maeneo yale, ili walimu wasihame ili wapate mazingira ambao ni mazuri zaidi, na wanatolekea maeneo mengine wanakoza kufundisha kwa sababu ya pesa za ziada. Kwa hivyo kwa Mstahiki Spika, nitakomea hapo na niseme kama kuna mtu ambaye anashinda zaidi anione kando, nitamuelezea kwa nini niko namna hii. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika.
Asante Senator Wabua Enoch. Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the petition concerning teachers and hardship allowances. Mr. Speaker, I think a time is now ripe that this country must come up with a proper policy framework on which areas are classified as hardship areas and which areas are not. Because, Mr. Speaker, it's actually a shame that there are some areas in this country which, under the equalization fund, they qualify for the fund because they are considered marginalized and therefore hardship areas. But when it comes to the issuance of hardship allowances to teachers and civil servants working in those areas, they don't qualify. That's because there is need to harmonize the two. And I'm happy because we have that bill before us, that we must insist that the CRA, working with senators and perhaps county governors, come up with a formula of determining which areas in this country are marginalized and therefore they are hardship areas where civil servants and teachers qualify for that allowance. Mr. Speaker, I thank the petitioners, led by the Senator for Taita Taveta, for bringing up that matter, because it's a matter that is live in my county in Kitui. We need that matter harmonized for the teachers and the civil servants. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakili Hilary Kiprotich.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute the Honorable Senator Mwaruma for the petition, which speaks to the interest of the teachers. Indeed, it's time, Honorable Speaker, that the current policy as is that deals with areas where the Teachers Service Commission has designated as hardship areas be reviewed. It's noted, Honorable Speaker, that out of the very many areas which have already been earmarked, it only reflects a small section of the known areas that generally benefit from the Equalization Fund, which has, according to the statistics given, benefited by virtue of devolution. Indeed, what was laid out in the petition by Honorable Mwaruma speaks to the volume and speaks to the challenges that a good number of teachers, not only in the particular county that has been referred to in the petition, but across the country. It is true that we still have a long way to go in terms of equitable benefit to our employees in the Teacher Service Commission because of skewed marginalization and benefits that comes with areas designated. For instance, in my county, Honorable Speaker, there are 3 areas within Chepalungu constituency that directly benefits from the Equalization Fund. These 3 wards, the wards Sigor, Nyangores, and Chebunyo, directly benefit out of the Equalization Fund. Why? Because they are earmarked as areas that are hardship. And when we define hardship, Mr. Speaker, it is exactly the 9 or so listed challenges that such employees face while they are seeking to deliver the services to the people of Kenya. And so I supported the petition, and once that petition is assigned to a particular committee, I request such a committee to expand it in order not only to deal with the specific area where Honorable Senator Maruma has petitioned, but across the country so that in its resolution, it expands to the whole country so that we speak to the challenges of all the teachers. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the second petition, I support to the extent that we indeed need to amend the provisions of the law that deals with the roles and elections of the deputy governors and such other offices. However, that is a constitutional amendment that I know will require a referendum, and therefore a committee cannot necessarily deal with such a petition to its conclusion other than making recommendations for purposes of maybe advancing it to the National Dialogue Committee or enhancing it beyond that to deal with it as a popular initiative towards amendment to the Constitution. I, therefore, Mr. Speaker, support the 2 petitions, and I thank you.
Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon visiting teachers and students from Maimayu Boys High School. The group comprises 3 teachers and 41 students who are in the Senate for a 1-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our issued tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Am I convinced that it is in Nakuru County? Yes, Senator for Nakuru County.
Thank you.
Senator Tabitha Kiloche.
Asante. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to take this opportunity and welcome the Maimahio Secondary School. It's a very good school, and it's a very good school. I want to use the opportunity and assure them that being here will add a lot of value to them. So take all the advantage and ensure that when you're here, you go also to the national, the parliament, the national house, so that now you can get all that you need to get. So that you whatever. I'm looking forward to having you as the future senators of the Nakuru County. Thank you. When you go home, salimia kila mtu. Asanteni sana. Tuko pamoja.
Senator Kiroche, maybe there is another Maimayu Secondary School. This school are the boys, wonderful boys from Maimayu Boys High School. High school. Yes. So they should be recognized as they are. Thank you. No, don't mind. It was on a right touch. Let us have now Senator Beatrice Ogora. My 30 minutes almost now done. We go to the next order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me the opportunity to support the petition by the Senator of Taita Taveta. Honorable Speaker, teachers remain the most discriminated lot of professionals in this country. If it is not over the hardship allowance we are talking about, it is about their transfers. And Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that even when there's a legal notice that spells out that the whole county should be given hardship allowance, then the Teacher Service Commission decides which sub-counties to give the allowance and which other sub-counties should be denied the allowance. Honorable Speaker, it is also important that we remind ourselves of some of the basic work that teachers do in schools. That other than teaching, teachers are nurses, teachers are lawyers, teachers are judges, teachers nurse students and pupils, teachers are caregivers, and teachers are everything to pupils and students as they grow up. Honorable Speaker, it is because of teachers that we are seated here today. Bear with me, Honorable Speaker, that I want to say teachers, actually all teachers deserve hardship allowance. And respective of their geographical situations, which is often looked at, Honorable Speaker, look at even the teachers who taught, for example, Senator Boni Alwali, Senator Gloria Ruoba, Senator Sifuna, if at all they went to school. Such teachers actually deserve hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, Honorable Speaker, I also want to comment on the first petition on the election of deputy governors and deputy president. That, Honorable Speaker, in leadership there must be centers of power, there must be a hierarchy, there must be order in leadership. Take the present situation, Honorable Speaker, that His Excellency the President is in New York and governors are in New York for official duties. Such offices must be maintained by their deputies.
Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, what is your point of order, Senator Matian? Okay, now you know you are pressing the wrong button for intervention. Let us have the last leader in this house, Senator Sifuna. Have you made any request? Okay, okay. The last one from Senator Tobiko Pelis, the last member to contribute on this order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I was almost going to ask that also some affirmative action like a hardship allowance is given to senators from those hardship areas and who are not getting an opportunity to speak in this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and to contribute to both the petitions, Mr. Speaker. The petitions about the functionality and work and about for the deputy governors and those other offices. Mr. Speaker, it's a constitutional moment in this country. In fact, Mr. Speaker, JLAC and the other committees should take note that we have already gone beyond the allowance in terms of the Constitution for the review of electoral boundaries in this country, Mr. Speaker. And so it is high time that we get engaged in that debate. For the issue of teachers, Mr. Speaker, I do agree with Senator Mwaruma, who is a neighboring county to Kajiado, that we suffer the same, hardships that our teachers go through a lot, Mr. Speaker. We have schools in places like my former constituency, Kajiado East in Poka Kenyewa, around Kiboko, where actually even students cannot go to school because of, the elephants, the wildlife, and all that. Mr. Speaker, yet you find that Kajiado has been categorized as one of the, I think most comfortable counties. So they are not put in the hardship allowance for teachers just because of places like Kitengela, Rongai, and Gong that are neighboring Nairobi and hosting majority of the members here and those others who are working in the civil service. But there are places in Kajiado County like Shompole, like Magadi, that are really, really hardship areas, and any teacher who is in those areas, Mr. Speaker, deserves hardship allowance, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, just like my sister Beatrice has said, that teachers do a lot of work. Teachers go beyond the call of duty. Teachers do counseling. Teachers even speak to parents and even do counsel parents, Mr. Speaker, because children come to school with all sorts of problems. Mr. Speaker, teachers should be paid allowances. I think all of them should be paid allowances, a responsibility allowance, because their work goes beyond the classroom. It goes into the communities. Mr. Speaker, teachers have become role models. Some of us came from communities that never knew the importance of educating girls. We were supported by teachers throughout to be able to make it to the level that we are today, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I arise to support that all teachers should be given not just hardship, but also responsibility allowance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable senators. That we come to the end of the 30 minutes comments window for those two petitions. Honorable senators, pursuant to Standing Order 2-81, the petitions should be committed to the relevant standing committees for consideration. In the case of the first petition by Tarcisio Irerikawe, that the petition goes to the Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs Committee, and the second one to go to the Committee on Education. And in terms of Standing Order 2-82, the committees are required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petitioners by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and reading to the table of the Senate. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority Linda. Proceed, Majority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of this Senate. Today, the 20th of September, Mr. Speaker, the year of our Lord 2023. Being, Mr. Speaker, 1, the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Amendment Bylaws, legal notice number 133 of 2023. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the annual National Government Budget Implementation Review Report by the Office of the Controller of Budget for the financial year 2022-2023. I lay and I thank you.
Another paper by Senator Vice Chair, devolution.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 20 September 2023, report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application of the conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret. I beg to lay.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Senator Baz, give notice of the motion.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret, laid on the table of the Senate today, Wednesday, September 2023, pursuant to the Section 8(6) of the Urban Areas and Cities Act 2011. The Senate approves the conferment of the city status to the municipality of Eldoret. Chairperson, Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations. Thank you, Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
We have statements, and standing on the 53-1, we start with the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator Ngoni Fuliososi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to request a statement on the status of construction of stadiums in Vihiga County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation, and Housing on the status of construction of stadiums in Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an update on the current status of construction of stadiums in Vihiga County, indicating the contractors who won the awards, the total funds allocated to date, the work done so far, the actual expenditure incurred to date, the budgeted amounts in the current financial year of 2023-2024, and the reasons for the inordinate delay in completion. Number 2, outline the measures put in place by the county government to expedite the completion of the stadiums for use by Vihiga-based teams participating in national leagues, indicating the expected dates of completion of works on the stadium. And 3, furnish the Senate with the original bill of quantities, BQ, for the projects, stating any variations that may have occurred vis the initial project's plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The next statement is by the Senator for Meru, which stands defunct till the next sitting. Next is Senator for Nakuru County. You have 2 statements. In them simultaneously.
The request for statement on the state of the health care in Nakuru County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to the Standing Order 53 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the state of health care in Nakuru County. In the statement, the committee should state the number and causes of infant deaths recorded across Nakuru County from September 2023 to date, particularly in Naivasha sub-county, where there were recent reports of 25 infant deaths. Apprise the Senate on the capacity building programs undertaken by the healthcare workers in Nakuru County, indicating whether there are plans by the county government in partner with the national government on capacity building programs for specialized fields such as pediatric care, cancer treatment, and reproductive health, which may be too costly for the county to fund. State whether there are plans by the county government to employ additional healthcare workers to bridge the extent manpower shortage, indicating measures put in place to curb unlawful recruitment practices such as corruption and nepotism, and recommend measures to curb the attrition of healthcare workers and the deterioration of healthcare services in hospitals, healthcare centers, and dispensaries in the Nakuru County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I request for statement on procedural dismissal of healthcare workers in Nakuru County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant on Standing Order 53 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the procedural dismissal of healthcare workers in Nakuru County. In the statement, the committee should state the rationale behind the procedural dismissal of well-trained and experienced health workers by the county government of Nakuru and their replacement with recent graduates, and explain why the county government has not expunged the health workers from the duty roster and withheld their salaries for July and August 2023 in disregard of a court order restating them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Next is Senator Chelagay, Nandi County. We also have 2 statements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order request for statement on construction of 6 interchanges on the Nairobi's Western Bypass. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Roads, Transportation and Housing on the omission of construction of 6 interchanges on the Nairobi's Western Bypass. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee should, 1, state the reasons behind the omission of 6 interchanges from the original plan by China Road and Bridge Corporation for the Nairobi Western Bypass despite the initial approving. So, Speaker, sir, the second, clarify the rationale behind dispersing the payment of Kenya shillings 21.5 billion to the contractor despite the contractor's failure to complete interchanges as initially intended through the BQ. So, Speaker, sir, state the measures put in place by the government to introduce junctions or interchanges along the Western Bypass to ensure accessibility for the densely populated areas situated along the road. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I highlight the steps taken by the government to hold to account the officials involved in colluding with the contractor in payment of 21.5 billion, leading to the omission of interchanges. So, Speaker, the second statement, request for statement on the status of rehabilitation and expansion of airports and airstrips in Kenya. So, Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on the status of rehabilitation and expansion of airports and airstrips in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, 1, report on the progress made in rehabilitation and expansion of airports and airstrips in Kenya, highlighting the completion status of each project. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, provide the details of how the allocation of Kenya shillings 1 billion towards the airports and airstrips targeted for rehabilitation and expansion of airports and airstrips will be distributed across targeted projects and further state the feasibility of the entire projects. Mr. Speaker, sir, number 3, indicate the total number of roads leading to and within the various airstrips scheduled for construction or renovation across the country. Mr. Speaker, number 4, outline the number of counties that are set to benefit from the ongoing expansion, upgrading, and renovation of airports and airstrips across the country. So, Speaker, sir, finally, elucidate on the status of the expansion projects at Kisumu International Airport and Eldoret International Airports to support and handle commercial flights and heavy cargo operations within Kisumu International Airport and Eldoret International Airport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Jonas Mwaruma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education concerning the Taita Taveta County Revolving Education Fund by Higher Education Loans Board, HELB. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide details of all applicants and beneficiaries of the fund, including the colleges they attend, admission numbers, the amount allocated to each, and disbursement dates from 2013 to date. 2, examine and table a report of any erroneous recoveries for loans not issued, stating the measures in place to refund those who are wrongfully made to pay loans which were not issued to them. And 3, investigate and report to the Senate any evidence of malpractice on the part of the fund committee or county employees, detailing steps that will be taken against those found culpable. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Next is Joseph Githuku, Senator Alamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for a statement on the status of healthcare provision in Peketoni Sub-County Hospital in Lamu County. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the status of healthcare provision in Peketoni Sub-County Hospital in Lamu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a comprehensive assessment of the equipment and facilities at Peketoni Sub-County Hospital in Lamu County, indicating whether it meets the required standards for a level 4 hospital in Kenya. Number 2, state the current staffing levels at the hospital, including the number of medical professionals, nurses, and support staff, explaining whether the staffing levels are adequate. Number 3, outline measures put in place to ensure the hospital maintains an adequate stock of essential medicine to meet the prescription needs of patients, stating whether such measures have proven effective. Mr. Speaker, I still have, under the Standing Order 53.1, I still have another statement on insecurity in Lamu County. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations regarding the insecurity situation in Lamu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the current insecurity in Lamu County stems from historical injustices or is a consequence of terrorism activities, specifically by Al-Shabaab. Number 2, outline the measures the government has implemented to ensure the safety and security of Lamu County residents, stating the action undertaken to resettle individuals displaced due to insecurity in the affected areas. Number 3, confirm if any arrests have been made and the perpetrators prosecuted for their actions. Number 4, state whether funds, if any, have been allocated to compensate the victims of terrorism attacks in Lamu County, disclosing the budget allocated and criteria used in compensating the beneficiaries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Next is Senator Agnes Kavidu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Request for statement on the incessant human-wildlife conflict in Masinga Dam and Old Donyo Sabuk game reserves in Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the incessant attack by wild animals in Masinga Dam and Old Donyo Sabuk Game Reserve in Machakos County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, indicate the number of people living in the close proximity to Masinga Dam and Ole Donyo Sabuk Game Reserve injured or killed by crocodiles or hippopotamus and other wild animals. 2, explain the reason for the delay in fencing the dam and the game reserve by the government to avert the attacks to the residents. 3, outline measures put in place by the government to ensure proper safeguarding of all water reserves and wild habitats to protect residents from potential encounters with the wild animals, and 4, state compensation measures put in place for injuries sustained by the human and domestic animals, loss of human and domestic animal lives, damage of crops, vegetation, and property resulting from wildlife attacks. Senator Agnes Kavindu MP, Senator for Machakos County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next is Senator Murango. No, Senator Karungo Dangwa. Senator for Kiambu County. Is not allowed, so that statement is dropped. Senator Mohammed Faki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 52-1 to make a statement on an issue of national concern, namely the circular issued by the Principal Secretary, Devolution in the Office of the Deputy President on foreign travel for county governments. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 30th of June 2023, the Principal Secretary for Devolution in the Office of the Deputy President issued a circular entitled Policy on International Travels to all governors and county assemblies employees in the country. In the policy, the Principal Secretary sought to provide for clearance to all county executives and county assembly employees traveling outside the country before their intended travel date. Pursuant to the said circular, the Office of the Controller of Budget has now stopped issuing any approvals for foreign travel to county executives and county assemblies without the authority and approval from the State Department of Devolution. Mr. Speaker, sir, this illegal procedure has created delays in processing of travels outside the country for county employees attending causes and important meetings outside the country, which are beneficial to the county governments. This bureaucracy has further curtailed budget implementation by county governments, which will impact on budget absorption at the end of the financial year, leading to unnecessary audit queries. This in turn negatively impacts the budget performance of our county governments. Mr. Speaker, sir, the clearance is personally issued by the Principal Secretary for Devolution, and the delays have on many occasions caused panic on the part of the county officials and in some instances necessitating payment of illegal inducements to fast-track the issuance of the clearance. I'm told, Mr. Speaker, the payment is 5,000 per delegate who is traveling. This in turn opens up avenues for corruption. Mr. Speaker, sir, our Constitution under Article 6.2 provides for two independent and distinct governments, one at the national level and the other one at the county level. Any oversight and accountability matters should be addressed by the respective assembly. I'm not aware of any provisions in law that allows the Principal Secretary for Devolution to vet travels by officials of the county governments. This, in my humble opinion, is a grave violation of the Constitution and a usurpation of the powers of the county governments. The Senate should not remain silent when the county governments are being oppressed by the executive. Mr. Speaker, sir, I kindly urge the relevant committee to take interest in this statement, as the circular has very grave repercussions on our county governments. Dated the 20th of September 2023, Senator Mohamed Faki, Senator County of Mombasa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, thank you, Senator Mohamed. There was one statement which I put that shouldn't be deferred to the next sitting, but we can have it read under 53.1 by Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do rise to request for a statement on designation of Kenya Association of Bus Manufacturers as a conformity assessment provider. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 53.1, I do seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the possible conflict of interest arising from the designation of Kenya Association of Bus Manufacturers as a conformity assessment provider. In the statement, the committee should, one, state the criteria for accreditation and designation of conformity assessment providers to the public service vehicle, bodybuilders, bus bodybuilders by the Kenya Accreditation Service and National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, respectively. Explain how the Kenya Association of Bus Manufacturers was designated as a conformity assessment provider despite the potential conflict of interest that may arise as the membership of the association comprises of PSV bus bodybuilders. Clarify whether there's a collusion between the association and PSV bus bodybuilders for the bodybuilders to deal exclusively with KABM to compromise for the prescribed standards for the buses and stifle competition in violation of Section 21 of the Competition Authority Act 2010. And lastly, outline the measures put in place by NTSA and the Competition Authority of Kenya to ensure fair competition and discourage monopolistic practices where bus bodybuilders take all their business to KABM. Senator Kathuri Murungi, MGH, MP, Senator for Meru County.
Okay. Thank you. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon an officer from the County Assembly of Ramu, Ms. Consolata Mwaura, who is the crack assistant in the County Assembly of Ram. Ms. Consolata is in the Senate for a 1-week attachment. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I wish her well during her attachment and in her future endeavors. Thank you. Honorable Senators, next order. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Oroba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege.
Honorable Senators, this motion was stopped at some point And today, this motion is now live for debate. We proceed from where we left. So members who are ready to contribute. From my screen, I can see Senator Ososi Ngonfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking the Committee of Powers and Privilege for having taken the time to listen to the various witnesses who appeared before them and produce this report, which they have brought to this House for discussion. But, Mr. Speaker, this particular motion calls for the adoption of the report of the committee on the conduct of one of us, who is Senator Gloria Orioba, and establish if the conduct constituted a breach of parliamentary privilege. Mr. Speaker, allow me to point out a few things about our conduct as honorable members. Mr. Speaker, we are called honorable members because we are supposed to conduct ourselves in a honorable manner. And when we get to a situation where we have to question the conduct of one of us, I think it's important because it strengthens this Senate even more. We have witnessed instances in this House where some of us get worried that maybe this House of Senate is retarding in terms of being a house of honor. If you can remember, Mr. Speaker, the first house where my senior Boni Khalwale sat, we had very senior personalities sitting in this house. We had people like James Orengo, we had Kiraitu Murungi, we had Boni Khalwale, and others. And even the last Senate, again, save for a few senators, we also had a very, very strong Senate. I think we need to look back to those days so that we align our conduct to the conduct of those two Senates that were there before us. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this is a house of rules. This is a house of tradition. This is a house of norms. And all this is meant to make us work in an organized manner where we respect each other. Mr. Speaker, when I was growing up, when I was a student at the university, I was one of the frequent visitors in the public gallery. And those days when multi-party had just started, one would imagine that these guys, if they meet in the chambers, they will fight each other or they will do something out of this world. But these members carried themselves with decorum. You can imagine a house that had Kenneth Matiba, a house that had Jaramogi Odinga, Raila Odinga, Mwai Kibaki, even former President Moi, Paul Muite, people who have very serious divergent views on matters of national importance. But when they came to the House, Mr. Speaker, they conducted themselves with the decorum, they followed the rules, and they respected each other. But we are beginning to see that scenario is quickly disappearing from our houses. And it should be a serious concern. It should be very serious concern. Mr. Speaker, this particular member, I happen to have sat in the same committee with this member. And this member sponsored a bill on Konza Metropolis, Technopolis bill. And the committee tried its best. We gave our input. We had some reservations on a number of things. But this particular senator mistreated the members of the committee. At one point, she came to this floor and said that the committee is trying to kill her bill. And yet, the bill was listed on the order paper. Mr. Speaker, I was not given an opportunity to appear before the Powers and Privilege Committee because I am among the members she accused of trying to kill the bill. And the only reason, Mr. Speaker, in the ICT committee, that the committee had a divergent view was that the Ministry of ICT had the same bill, which was more comprehensive. And then we said, why can't we marry the two and have a bill so that your bill is not, does not appear like it is trying to compete with the ministry bill. But that alone unders that kind of disrespect from this senator. Mr. Speaker, I am among the members who rejected this bill on this floor, largely because of that reason, that bill, one, it was insufficiently addressing the issues of how to manage technopolis in this country. Number two, the Ministry of ICT was in the process of processing a similar bill. So when it came here, I rejected that bill for that good reason. But this senator went on social media and labeled us as a community that is trying to fight her. Because my good senator neighbor Halwale opposed it. My good senator for Bungoma, Wakoli, opposed it. Just because we share the same tribe, she went and blackmailed us on social media that we voted against the bill because we are lawyers. I voted against the bill, Mr. Speaker, because of the reasons I've stated. Mr. Speaker, we have also seen the kind of decorum that this senator has subjected our good clerk, Nyegenye, to. Nyegenye is one of the long-serving employees of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And I served in the National Assembly. And I worked very closely with Nyegenye. I know he's a very professional employee, very respectful. But now this senator comes up with allegations against the clerk, and the clerk has no voice. The clerk is supposed to keep quiet. Nyegenye deserves respect. Nyegenye deserves justice. And the justice is for us to pass this motion. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion because we must stop this kind of decorum in this House. We must bring back the respect of this House. We must also protect the staffers of Parliament. These are professionals. These are not people who are in politics like us, that we subject them to social media. They have no avenue to defend themselves. And then you use the privileges of this House to come and fight these innocent staffers. I want to say that I will stand firm to support this motion, even though some of us would be having alternative views. But even if you have alternative view, think about the Senate. Where are we heading to? For how long are we going to allow this kind of decorum in this house? And we have seen many other things in this Senate. Sometimes you sit here and you get shocked how some of our colleagues behave. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage members to support this motion so that it can serve as a lesson to those who want to do the same. Mr. Speaker, I served with you in the National Assembly, and we had similar cases. We had a case involving Babu Wino. There was no problem. We discussed it. And Babu Wino apologized to the House. And the matter ended there. We had a case on Didmas Baraza. The honorable member claimed that we were receiving money in the toilet, sugar money. And he could not prove it. And when he went to the Powers and Privilege Committee, they found out that he had a case to answer. The matter was discussed in the House, and the House agreed, and the Honorable Baraza apologized to the House. There is no problem in us discussing this, Senator. All we want from her is for her to come and apologize to the House, apologize to an innocent clerk that he blackmailed in social media, and we'll consider to accept the apology and we move on. But we cannot stop discussing the conduct of a member just because we fear some issues. We will discuss, and I encourage members to discuss this motion soberly and pass it so that we establish a precedent that members in this House will follow, and we ensure that this Senate adheres to the established norms, cultures of Parliament across the world. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Karen Nyamu.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this report tabled by the Committee of Powers and Privileges. And Mr. Speaker, we have seen this play out in the social media, in our social media platforms, our official WhatsApp group page between Senator Gloria Oroba and the people alleged, namely the clerk and others. Mr. Speaker, we have also, I also happen to be in the committee that he's referring to, the Committee for ICT, and I'm also privy to some of the alleged conduct by my colleague, Senator Gloria Oroba. But Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ with the report and state that not only is it very punitive to our colleague, Senator Gloria, it is also seems to be discriminatory because, first of all, we are tabling this report and debating it in her absence, in the full knowledge of the Secretariat of the Senate and your office, Mr. Speaker, that she is away. We have also seen conduct that could be similar, if not worse, to what Senator Gloria is accused of. When we had, when the minority side was having an altercation with Senator Dulo, we saw Senator Eddie get rough and disorderly in the House. I have seen my colleague, Senator Sifuna, address the Speaker and tell the Speaker, shame on you, to his face. Is it because Senator Gloria is a woman? Is it because that Senator Gloria is a woman that she has to go through this punitive? And don't get me wrong, Mr. Speaker, I am
Senator Sifuna, you are next to contribute. I think you can combine all your issues at that point.
Mr. Speaker has
Just a minute,
pronounced
Senator
himself.
Cullen.
And don't get me wrong, Mr. Speaker, I am for the role of the Committee of Powers and
Just
Privileges.
a minute. It's because I've mentioned his name. That is why he has the point of reply.
So should he go ahead?
Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 120 on relevance, the matter that is before us is a report of the Powers and Privileges Committee on the conduct of a named senator. I would urge my sister to restrict herself to the contents of this report. It is a matter of record in this House that I have been punished severely for every crimes that I have ever committed on this floor, so that nobody can bring that into this particular discussion. I have never been let scot-free, not because of my sex or anything. I have been punished for all transgressions that have ever happened on this floor, and I don't see how relevant it is to the discussion before this House this afternoon.
And also thank this chair because you have equally been pardoned severally for mistakes.
Mr. Speaker, I
proceed
also
and finish, but avoid and dragging the names of your colleagues on this matter and just stick to your issues.
Okay, I am
you are
guided.
doing so well before you started mentioning the
I am guided.
names of the members.
And Mr. Speaker, I don't want to be misunderstood. And don't get me wrong, I am for discipline of the members, I am for the Senate's respect, and I'm for order. But Mr. Speaker, we cannot banish a member for 6 months in this House because of maybe she did not express herself in a way that we expect, she did not conduct herself in a way that we all expected, because we are different characters. And as young people, we can get overzealous and over-enthusiastic. So, Mr. Speaker, even if we are to take action against Senator Gloria, I am of the opinion that 6 months is too punitive, it is unnecessary, and if we are to adopt the report, we adopt it with changes so that we minimize and we reduce that period where our colleague is supposedly supposed to be away from the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, 6 years ago, there's a famous black French footballer called Benjamin Mendy, who arrived at the Manchester club called Manchester City as the most expensive defender at the time. Mr. Speaker, around November of 2020, this gentleman was arraigned in court and charged on 6 allegations of rape. At that particular point when those charges were brought against Benjamin Mendy, his career entirely stopped. His contract at Manchester City, of course, was put on hold. His bright future as a footballer was thrown into confusion. It was only in January of this year that that footballer called Mendy was cleared of those charges. Mr. Speaker, there are certain truths that we know in our society. There are certain crimes called crimes of morality. That in fact, Mr. Speaker, for as long as an allegation is made that you have been involved in a crime of morality, for instance, rape or defilement of a minor, the public already in their minds make a determination that you as a man are guilty. Mr. Speaker, there is also a tenet of law that the person who makes an allegation has the responsibility to prove that allegation. He who alleges must prove. Mr. Speaker, I have seen my colleague, the nominated senator from Nairobi, trying to make comparison to some of the things that have happened on this floor, to some of the allegations that have been leveled against members of the clerkship in this House by the senator under discussion, Senator Gloria Oroba. Mr. Speaker, this report is what we are supposed to restrict ourselves to this afternoon. Senator Gloria Oroba made very specific allegations that have been captured in this report, Mr. Speaker, and her responsibility, her sole responsibility, because we all have responsibility for the statements that we make and the allegations that we make. The first one, and this is found on page 8 of the report by the committee, is an allegation of pursuit of sexual favors in this house. Now, as I have told you, some of these allegations, especially for crimes of morality, immediately the allegation is made, especially to a man. Especially to a man. You are done. The society will not wait for the court case. They will not be interested in what the witnesses will come to say. In the minds of those people, you are a rapist once the allegation has been made. And that is the God honest truth. So, it is not to say that you cannot make an allegation. It is not to say that probably there are no people in this institution of parliament who are seeking sexual favors. That is not what we are saying. We are saying that immediately you pronounce that so and so is seeking sexual favors from you, you have a responsibility to substantiate those allegations. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the second count, there was an allegation of favoritism and discrimination in the execution of the work by the Office of the Clerk and officers of this institution. Now, Mr. Speaker, all that is required to do after making an allegation, if indeed it is true, you must be able to demonstrate with evidence in fact that these are things that you have not just conjured up, that things are actually happening the way that you're putting them. Because these allegations, once made against officers or any person in this house, have consequences, Mr. Speaker. It is only fair that you make that substantiation. The third one, and all these are on page 8, is an allegation of corruption. That on diverse dates, she said that there were cases of corruption in Parliament, posting various messages on social media, that there are allegations of corruption. You know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, none of us here would survive an allegation of corruption if we are going to continue to be public servants in this republic. Now, I have had a conversation, and I had a conversation in this chamber with Senator Gloria, and I told her that in fact the beauty with our system is that there exists a mechanism through which you can demonstrate using evidence and facts that in fact these things are happening to you. And that was the invitation that came from the Committee on Powers and Privileges. Mr. Speaker, what is most disheartening is that when you read this report, Senator Gloria Oroba, on 2 separate occasions, was invited to appear before the Committee on Powers and Privileges. Mr. Speaker, if you look at page 7 of that report, paragraph 12A, the first thing is the committee confirms here that Senator Gloria was given an opportunity to appear before the Powers and Privileges Committee, ostensibly to table evidence to back her claims of sexual favors, of corruption, and of favoritism in this particular house. Mr. Speaker, you can see that at paragraph 13, that matter, some of those allegations that she had made were the subject of investigations by none other than the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. And at paragraph 13A, the report says that the evidence submitted was not enough to sustain a criminal charge in court. That is to tell you that the DCI had concluded the investigations and that they found the evidence that was provided not substantive enough to sustain any charges against anybody. Mr. Speaker, it was also at paragraph 14, the committee says that no evidence was tendered by Senator Gloria Oroba to rebut the charges, and hence the allegations that she made remained unsubstantiated. On the day of the hearing itself, the report says that at paragraph 11 on page 6, that it had granted her an opportunity to be heard, and she refused to take that opportunity to be heard, refusing to continue with the proceedings, and the committee elected to continue to proceed and hear this matter. So all I am saying, Mr. Speaker, when this matter was first brought before the House, I was inclined to some of the thinking that I have heard some of our colleagues saying, that maybe the punishment that has been proposed by the committee was too harsh. But for me, Mr. Speaker, if you have gone through certain things in this House, and you have publicly said this is what you're going through and it is impeding your work as a senator in this House, and then you are granted an opportunity for you to table evidence against these things, because I do not believe that it is impossible for you to demonstrate bias. It is not impossible for you to demonstrate. If honorable, any member here has treated you unfairly, there will be traces, there will be tracks. But for you to make allegations and accusations against people who cannot defend themselves in public, it is very, very unfair for you then to be granted an opportunity to substantiate, then you refuse to substantiate. One of the most unfair things in these particular proceedings, Mr. Speaker, is that the person who was the subject of these allegations that remain unproven and unsubstantiated is a clerk in this House who does not have the same political platform like Sifuna to be able to answer you. For me, everybody in this House knows, if you come after me, we will be with you mundu kumundu. I have no problem with that. You are very free to come and attack Sifuna on any day, because I will deal with you perpendicularly, circumferentially, whatever it is. But for people seated at this table, Mr. Speaker, they do not enjoy the same privilege. What is the most hurtful thing is, and I think Clerk Jeremiah Nyegenye has demonstrated some level of restraint and maturity that I personally do not believe I possess. Because I cannot be in a forum with you. You are making allegation after allegation after allegation. You are given opportunity to substantiate, and I have to read all that information and just look at you and keep quiet. It will not happen. Some of us, I think, are built of a bit more volatile material that is easily combustible, Mr. Speaker, and I will not allow you to continue like that. So, for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I believe that Senator Gloria, having made those allegations, she had a responsibility to substantiate those allegations. She had opportunity to substantiate those allegations before the committee. She elected not to appear before that committee or to tender any evidence. Those allegations remain unsubstantiated, and therefore, the punishment that has been proposed by the committee is something that I am willing to support, and I hereby support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. And Senator Sifuna, for your information, I think we are made from the same material. So I think we are okay. That's a good material. Senator Wakoli. He has left. Senator Morango James.
Asante sana mstahiki Speaker, na niseme ya kwamba nitarudia majina yangu, naitwa Morango. Kazi ya Morango ni kufunga ama kufungua. Na nimekunja hapa kupinga taarifa ambayo imeletwa hapa katika kuhusu Gloria Oromba. Kwa sababu mstahiki Speaker, kuna njia tofauti za kujieleza. Kuna wale ambao wanajieleza vizuri kama Senator Sifuna. Kuna wale wanakaa katikati kama sehemu nyeti, hawataki kusema upande ambao waliko. Lakini mimi niko hapa kupinga hii taarifa kwa sababu tumeona mambo ambayo imefanyika katika hili bunge hapo awali. Wewe mwenyewe ukiwa Speaker, tunakumbuka kuna mambo ilifanyika pale na Senator wa Migori. Alafu ukatoa kauli ambao tulikuja tukakaa chini, alafu tukaipindua. Hii imefanyika kwa sababu huyu ni mwanamke, ama imefanyika kwa nini, mstahiki Speaker? Na kama mbamba watoto wasichana, ndio maana nimesimama hapa kupinga. Mstahiki Speaker, maneno ambayo inasemekana ilifanywa ni maneno ambayo ilisemwa, sio kufanywa. Ile maneno ambayo ilifanywa hatujaiongelea sana, lakini yaliyosemwa tunaiongelea sana. Na kumbaliana na adhabu, lakini adhabu ya kufukuza mtoto msichana miezi 6 kwa sababu ya kauli aliyosema, sisi wenye tuko hapa ni mangapi tumesema ambayo hayafai, na bado tuko hapa tukiwa wanaume. Mstahiki Speaker, nikiangalia taarifa ambayo imeletwa hapa, imesainiwa na wanaume 5. Waswahili husema katika mahakama ya fisi mbuzi yapati haki. Kwa hivyo mstahiki Speaker, mimi ningetaka kusema hivi. Mambo ambayo tunaosema hapa, najua kuna wakati katika kukosa kufuatilia sheria za Speaker. Moja aliyevunja zaidi ni Senator tuliye na hapa, anaitwa Senator Cherargei. Tulikuwa naye hapa. Akakaidi amri la spika kutoka nje, ambaye alikuwa pia anafaa kuitwa katika kamati ambayo inaitwa pass privilege. Aliitwa, kwa nini hakuitwa? Lakini huyu kwa sababu ni mama, ndio maana amepewa adhabu ambayo haifai. Katika maneno ambayo wanasema kwamba anajua, ambayo sitayataja hapa, akukuangi na ushahidi ama mambo ambayo inaolewa, ambayo imeongelewa katika mwanaume na mwanamke, na sio siri kama imefanyika ama haijafanyika. Nasemi kwamba imefanyika, lakini tunafaa tukae chini tuangalie huyu kama mwenzetu, tukae chini tuangalie adhabu ambayo inaofaa, sio kufukuza huyu Senator Orwomba miezi 6 ambao atakanyaga katika hiki kikao, na tukijua ya kwamba ana kazi ya kufanya kama mama katika hii bunge la Seneti. Mstahiki Speaker, Mstahiki Speaker, mimi nangoja kwa sababu najua kuna mtu atakaidi ile agizo lako tena hapa, na ndio nione kama pia kama yeye atafanywa kama venye Ngiruri amefanywa. Mstahiki Speaker, katika historia hii nchi tunajaribu sana kuangalia na kumpunguza ubaguzi wa wanawake, na ndio maana kuna sheria maalum ambayo ililetwa kwamba lazima kuwe na thuluthi mbili katika kila kikao ili tuweze kuwapatia wanawake nguvu. Sasa hivi tumekaa hapa wengi tukiwa wanaume, wa kwanza kujaribu kufukuza ni mwanamke. Mimi Mstahiki Speaker, mimi napinga kwa dhati kama Murango hilo.
Is your point of order, Senator Chergi?
Kwanza unafahamu.
Mr. Speaker, understanding order 96 and 101, we need to be responsible in statements that we make. These are House of Rules and Order. To assert that I'm being treated with kids' glove is misleading, because I have received the punishment. It means if I had not the fact that on several occasions I have suffered the punishment like Senator Sifuna. So it depends on the offense we have committed. When I decline, Mr. Speaker, there's the rat, and it is good that Senator Murango should be attending sessions. When I declined to sit, the Speaker, the punishment I received was to be chased out of the session for the rest of the day. So the crime and punishment must go together. And I took my punishment with glory and with humility. So to make assertions that to other Kenyans who are watching these proceedings that Senator Cherargei and other senators are making mistakes in the floor of the House and they don't suffer consequences is misleading, Mr. Speaker. Can the senator withdraw and apologize, because it is on record that I have been punished on several occasions as per the standing orders of this House, Mr. Speaker? It is very unfortunate. I didn't expect that. I wish he would have qualified statement by saying Senator Cherargei has been an affront to standing orders and he has been punished accordingly. That is it, Mr. Speaker. But to draw the card of gender and try to intimidate some of us, Mr. Speaker, to support an illegality, we shall not be cowed or intimidated, Mr. Speaker. And I've never met issues of sexual favors from anybody. That's a very serious offense as a man. As somebody, your family, where you come from, Mr. Speaker.
You're on a point of order. Now you are
No, Mr. Speaker, I am mad because you can imagine as a man, somebody has accused you of requests for sexual favors, Mr. Speaker.
So
This is, we cannot be intimidated.
Let Senator Murango conclude his presentation.
Mstahiki Speaker, katika kanuni za kudumu 122 inasema kwamba makosa moja kubwa sana ambayo unaweza fanya ni kukosa kutoka ukiambiwa na Speaker utoke nje kwa sababu umekosa nidhamu. Na ninajua kwamba kila kitu tunaosema hapa kuna kuanga na rekodi maalum, na najua hiyo rekodi maalum iko kwa sababu chenye naongea najua ni ukweli na ukweli mtupu. Wakati jambo kama hili lilifanyika, Mstahiki Speaker, mwenye alikuwa amefanya hiyo makosa alikuja akaitwa, kukawa na kikao, alafu akarudi baada ya siku moja ama mbili. Tunayeongelea hapa kwa mambo anayosema anafukuzwa kwa kipindi cha miezi 6. Mstahiki Speaker, hata kama kuna makosa imefanyika na mtu yote, kipindi ya miezi 6 ni nusu mwaka, Mstahiki Speaker. Majukumu ambayo Gloria anafaa kufanya katika hili bunge iko dhahiri shahidi katika katiba, na ni kusema kwa muda huo afai kukanyanga hapa ama kuhudhuria mambo yote ambayo itakuwa inaongelewa katika hii seneti ya kitaifa. Kwa hivyo mstahiki Spika, si kutaka kwamba nama sikutaja Senator wa Nandi nikitaka kumkasirisha, lakini nilikuwa napeana tu mfano kwa sababu ni mfano ambao unajulikana. Kuna makosa kubwa kushinda mtu ambaye anaambiwa na Spika nyamaze, alafu anakuja anatoa vibango katika meza na kupeleka katika ile kamati. Tuliona hiyo ikifanyika hapa katika hii seneti. Na kwa hivyo ndo ningesema mstahiki Spika, nikimalizia, Mugala muwe na haki yake mpe. Kila mtu ako na njia yake ya kujieleza. Tunaongelea kuhusu hapa Gloria ni msichana mdogo kimiaka. Anafaa kuvumiliwa pamoja na wale wa mama wengine ambao wako na umri kama ule. Hiyo ndio kuwapa nafasi ya kukua katika hii seneti. Anaweza kuwa alikosea kwa kutojua ama alikosea kwa kujua. Lakini ningeuliza ya kwamba sisi wenyewe tuko hapa, isipokuwa wale ambao nadhani sio mababa wa wasichana kama mimi, wachukue. Hata Biblia ilisema ya kwamba asiyekuwa na makosa achukue jiwe la kwanza kumtupia yule mwanamke ambaye anasemeka katika Biblia. Yesu akasema hivyo. Na mimi ningesema ya kwamba ambaye hajawahi kosa katika hili bunge la seneti, wao kwanza kurusha mawe na kumkashifu na kumfukuza Senator Gloria. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Senator Ezena Amaretian.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to strongly oppose the report sent before this House because I think everybody deserves a second chance, and most importantly, because I note that we are all not made equal. All human beings are made very differently, and there is no way that we all want to conform or confine human beings to behave in a particular way or express themselves in a particular way. For those of you who think they are gifted in expressing yourselves or projecting your frustrations, not everybody can be like you. And as a mature human being and a leader, what we need to learn is how to tolerate each other. If you know that this particular person has this kind of character, then know how to tolerate that character and respect who they are, because we all have different characters. We all have different personalities. And again, secondly, let's not forget that we are talking about sexual harassment here. This is something that has been downplayed over so many years, and a lot of us have gone through so many frustrations of refusing to be employed because of sexual advances from particularly the men. Not only that, there are also young men in offices who I know have gone through a lot of sexual harassment from ladies, older ladies. And I'm very frustrated as a young person in this country, because that has been the norm within this nation, that somebody will be asked for sexual favors. If you don't conform, you remain jobless. And while at the same time, a lot of people are losing and missing opportunities because of this thorn in the flesh. What this House should be talking about is putting strong and stringent laws forward to regulate sexual harassment, especially in public and government offices. From the top to the bottom, we have had a lot of reports, even in the media, of women being sexually harassed. And right now, to the public, what they see is a young, assertive woman who rose and defended against sexual harassment. A lot of times, we might see different things in the House, but what does the public see? What does the public see? And a lot of times, when assertive women come out and defend their position on these issues, their heads are pressed down. The thing this House should be discussing is how to prevent sexual harassment. And a lot of times when the victim has been harassed, you are not in a position to get evidence. Things flow and you don't have evidence.
A minute, Senator Azena, what is your point of order? And let us also not continue just raising point of orders.
No, Mr. Speaker. I am not in the habit of raising frivolous points of order. Under Standing Order 120, again to remind this House, that the report before us is a report of the Powers and Privileges Committee. In this particular case, nobody has accused Gloria of being an assertive woman. Nobody has accused her of lack of proper expression. We are not saying she cannot express herself. She's one of the most eloquent senators in this House. The report of the House is very simple. She made allegations. She needed to substantiate. She failed to substantiate. There are consequences of dragging people's names through the mud, and then you don't say it. You don't come here to lecture us about, sexual this, sexual that. Show us the evidence. Show us the evidence. Nobody is interested in sexual advances here.
Senator Sifuna. Senator Sifuna, you know you cannot put exact ones that any senator should use in this House. As long as she is contributing on this particular matter. She is contributing on this particular matter. If I reason, she is defending women and the young leaders, young women leaders. So to me, she is not out of order. Senator Azena, proceed and conclude your minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is exactly what happens when young women are assertive in this country. And it is time, Mr. Speaker, some people, I am.
Honourable members, Senator Zena,
I am, and I have the right to be heard. Because, Mr. Speaker, protect me, Mr. Speaker.
To get to the floor.
Protect me, Mr. Speaker, from people exhibiting chauvinism, male chauvinism.
Senator Zena, stop addressing members. Just proceed and conclude your contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Senator Sifuna does not utilize my eyes. I do not use your eyes to read the report, nor do you live with me. There is no way you will know if I read the report or not. So stick to your lane.
Senator Zena, stop addressing members directed. Address the chair, kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I continue, like I reiterated, that what we need to discuss in this House is how to protect people and young women especially from sexual harassment. Why? Because a lot of times when these allegations are made or we have cases like this, a lot of times it's thrown under the bus because there is no evidence. And in a lot of instances when this is happening, you do not even have time to get evidence. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to be very fair in how we approach these issues and know that this House is a house for all of us and everybody deserves respect. I do not agree with the insults labeled against our fellow colleagues, but at the same time, you do not see every problem. When you have a hammer, you see every problem as a nail. We must not use hammers to correct or guns to deal with very small problems. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Abdraman Abdulhai Milaj.
Asante Bwana Spika, na mimi pia nasimama kupinga mswada huu ulioletwa na kamati ya Powers and Privileges kwa sababu zangu. Na nianze kwa kutanguliza samahani kwa karani wetu wa bunge ambaye ameweza kuyapitia haya mengi ambao tumekuwa tukiyaona katika ukurasa wetu wa WhatsApp. Hata mimi sipendelei jinsi anavyojibeba dadangu Seneta Gloria Oroba. Jumla ya hayo, nasimama kupinga uamuzi wa kamati hii kwa sababu ya kwanza, hakuna mahali kokote mwanamke yoyote ama mwanamume anaweza kutoa ushahidi wa kwamba ameombwa kimapenzi ama ameombwa mapenzi. na inasikitisha kusikia katika korido zetu za Senate kusema ya kwamba ikiwa kila mwanamke anayeomba mapenzi ataweza kujibeba vile Gloria amejibeba, basi tutakuwa tunafunga wanaume wengi. Kauli hiyo imenisikitisha sana mimi kama kiongozi wa kike mchanga ambaye nimejitosa katika tasnia hii ya kisiasa. Mtakubaliana na mimi ya kwamba tunapitia changamoto nyingi kama wanawake na zaidi kama watoto wa kike wa umri wetu kuweza kufika katika hadhi hii ya kisiasa ambayo sisi, mimi, Gloria na wengine tumefikia. Na ni jambo la kusikitisha zaidi, Bwana Spika, kuona ya kwamba nyumba hii ya Seneti hata na uongozi wake wa wengi na wa wachache wamekosa busara, wamekosa hekima ya kuweza kulitatua tatizo hili pindi lilipokuwa linaanza. Sisi Waswahili husema kidonda hujianza kwa mwasho, kikakunwa mpaka kikakuwa kidonda kikubwa. Malalamishi ya Senator Gloria Uroba, Bwana Spika, hayakuanza jana wala juzi. Na nikubaliane na Senator Murango hapa ya kwamba kuna makosa mengi tu yamefanywa na viongozi wenza kama aliyoyafanya Senator Gloria Uroba. Na kila mtu, Bwana Spika, ako na jinsi ya vile anajieleza anapokumbwa na changamoto katika maisha yake. Kuna watu wengi tumewaona wamejitundika katika miti na kucommit suicide kwa matatizo ambayo wangeweza kukaa na wenzao na wakayatatua. Kwa hivyo mimi sioni bina ama sioni jambo geni ambalo Senator Gloria Uroba amelifanya ambalo viongozi wengine hapa wa kiume wamefanya. Nilikuwa katika lounge ya kutulia wakati Senator Sifuna akitusi Speaker wa hili bunge Madam Veronica Maina, akimwambia shame, shame, shame. Na Speaker alivyokuja kukaa hapa alimfurusha kwa majuma kadha. Lakini kwa sababu ni seneta wa kiume, siku ya pili kwa kikao cha saa 8 Senator Sifuna aliweza kuregeshwa na akaendelea na shughuli zake za kuwawakilisha watu wa Nairobi. Speaker, sisi, asante Bwana, mimi najua Kiswahili ni lugha ya kitaifa na ni lugha yenye hadhi hata kushinda hicho kimombo chenu kilichokuja na meli hapa Kenya.
Senator Sifuna. Stop exchanging ones across the floor.
Bwana Spika, hizi ndio tabia na nidhamu ambazo tunaziongelea. Nidhamu potofu hata za kushinda zile Gloria amefanya katika hii seneti. Lakini kwa sababu
just a minute. I'm saying this house must have some order.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunilinda. Hizi ndio nidhamu ambazo tunazizungumzia, mbaya zaidi na potofu hata kushinda zile Gloria amefanya.
Honorable Senators,
Bwana Spika,
stop exchanging across the floor.
Samahani.
If you want to address anything, address through the chair.
Kuna watu wengi tuko hapa Spika na tunaona yale yanaendelea. Na kimya chetu kisichukuliwe tu ati tuko na hatujui kile tunafanya hapa. Ni mara nyingi na mara kadhaa sisi nominated senators, wengi wetu tukiwa watoto wa kike, huko nje tunaitwa sisi wanawake ambao tumepewa hivi vyeo kwa ajili ya kulala na wakuu katika vyama vya kisiasa. Na leo Gloria Uroba analetwa hapa na kutaka kuhukumiwa tu kwa sababu ni mtoto wa kike ambaye ametumia matamshi yasiyofaa kwa wakati ambao watu walitarajia matamshi tofauti na yale ambao wanakubaliana. Mimi nakubaliana na ndugu zangu, yapo matamshi ambayo dadangu seneta anayatumia hata dhidi yangu. Lakini sisi kama viongozi ni wakati tutumie hekima na busara. Tusitumie hawaza nafsi zetu kutaka kumwadhibu mtoto wa kike ambaye amepitia yale ambayo wengi kule nje wameshindwa kuweza kufika hapa. Sisi nominated senators tumeletwa katika bunge hili ili tuweze kuwawakilisha wengi wanawake ambao hawakupata fursa ya kuweza kufika katika nyumba kama hii. Na mimi leo nimeongea Bwana Spika ili iweze kuwa katika kumbukumbu ya historia ya taifa la Kenya, ya kwamba sitakubali siku yoyote mtoto wa kike anyanyaswe kwa sababu ya jinsia yake. Anyanyaswe kwa sababu uamuzi mmoja unaweza kutumika katika kosa hilo na utumiwe uamuzi tofauti kwa kosa lilo hilo. Nimetangulia kusema na ninasimama na karani wa Senate kwamba yale yaliyotamkwa, hata mimi sahihi nikitoka mtoto wa kiume anifinyie jicho pale, ukiniambia nitoe ushahidi, sitaweza kuwa na ushahidi wa kuwa nimefinyiwa jicho na nimeombwa kimapenzi. Kwa hivyo tukiwa hapa Bwana Spika, tukiwa tunataka kumwadhibu Senator Gloria Orwoba, kwanza ningependekeza powers and privileges walimpeleka dada yetu hospitali, wakajua kwamba yuko mzima kwa yale anayoyatenda, kwa sababu zile tabia za Gloria Orwoba zinahitaji kusimamiwa na daktari ili tuweze kujua tuna deal na colleague wa aina gani. Lakini sisi kama wenzake ambao anatarajia kuwa tutamtetea Bwana Spika, ndio tumekuja hapa na bunduki na maneno ya kejeli, tumekuja na nyundo tayari kumgonga. Naomba Bwana Spika, ikiwa kuna suluhu tunaweza kumsaidia dadangu Senator Gloria, mimi Miraji Abdullahi ningeomba apelekwe katika zahanati aweze kupimwa, kama ni mzima tumsaidie. Huu ni wakati ambao Gloria anatuhitaji kushinda wakati mwingine. Asante Bwana Spika kwa hayo mengi na machache.
Asante sana. Ameshamaliza. Senator Koiti Andrew Omtata. She's done.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity. But I would gladly have skipped the opportunity because of the amount of sulfur I can smell in this house. It's like I'm in hell and the devil is around. Behind me, yes. It's a pungent smell of sulfur in this house. So, the report before us is not a gender issue. You could remove the name Orwoba and put Sifuna, and the report would still stand. So I don't understand where the invitation to discuss gender is coming from. Secondly, you cannot stand here and purport to argue that the clerk is guilty as accused. No, they are saying that you cannot prove if somebody has kufinya jicho or whatever it is. So you are saying that once an allegation of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment is made, it is proven. Honorable Sifuna just demonstrated to us how somebody has suffered on false allegations. Senator Orwoba was given a chance to defend herself. And I followed these discussions keenly, and I want to submit that if you go to the record, sexual harassment came at the tail end. This allegation of sexual harassment came at the tail end, and I wonder how the sexual harassment would then happen after what had been alleged to have happened had been alleged. So let us sober up and debate what is before this House. Also, two wrongs don't make right. Because somebody else misconducted himself or herself, it doesn't mean that we should misconduct ourselves. We must know that when you go on social media, do billboards, and some of the hashtags were impeach, nyegenye, and do whatever, this was totally uncalled for. There had been no report to law enforcement about sexual harassment. There's no recollection in this report that an OB number was obtained alleging that the clerk had sexually harassed Senator Orwoba or any staff member any member of the Secretariat had done that. So I would request that as we contribute, we should also respect the right of individuals to a good reputation, which is in the Constitution. Let us not come here and make pronouncements that have no evidentiary support. We live in a country that is governed by the Constitution, which prescribes due process. Due process was accorded to Senator Gloria Roba to defend herself. And anywhere, if you don't defend yourself, you lose. So let us not come here and cast aspersions and make grave allegations against innocent people. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. So what I'm hearing on this floor is demonic, satanic. We cannot allow it to continue. So whether you are a woman or a man, take it out there.
Senator,
we did not choose.
Senator Okiomtata, kindly use parliamentary language.
I thought the word demonic and satanic.
There is no honorable senator who can be satanic.
No, I said what I hear.
Be demonic.
I said what I was hearing. Yeah. There is no satanic or demonic senator.
There is no senator who can even try to demonstrate the satanic ways and how.
No, but they can utter satanic and demonic
so
words.
Use very nice parliamentary language. You are being so well.
I'm guided.
Just use the right language.
I'm guided, you are, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, let us have a sober debate on this report. The Committee of Privileges has spent its time, and from where I sit, the report is detailed. Maybe we could discuss the kind of punishment that is recommended. We could discuss the kind of punishment recommended. Mr. Speaker, sir, protect me from my friend Senator Murango, who is consulting loudly.
Yeah, Senator Murango, kindly consult in low tones.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would really urge that we look at this thing without putting on the gender lens. The gender lens has been wielded to destroy the boy child, and even the boy child can fight back. Let nobody think that this world belongs to women. It does not. It belongs to both of us. It belongs to both of us, Mr. Speaker, with equal rights. And if a matter is being prosecuted, let us prosecute it on the merits of the case before us. And the merits of the case before us is that there are allegations that were made, as Senator Sifuna said. Governor is okay. Okay. As Honorable Sifuna said, and the allegations were presented before the committee of this House, performing a quasi-judicial function. And the committee of this House, using its powers, gave the person making the allegation the right to be heard. The person declined to be heard. The person did not show up before the committee. And the offer was either to appear in person or by advocate. The person did not appear. The allegations are being made against people who, like every one of us, have a right to a good reputation. People who have been serving us diligently. And if I may go back, a few months before this happened, there had been serious allegations that vehicles had been broken in at the Senate parking. Police got involved. The CCTV reels were run. Even some had not parked their vehicles there on that day. It is just that the secretariat, led by the clerk, decided to cool things off and to let those senators go. So this idea of making wild allegations must come to an end. If you can't prove it, shut up. And to say that it's impossible to prove this kind of thing is not true with the kind of technology we have today. With keyhole cameras, even sunglasses like the ones worn by the indomitable senator of Nandi can be used to record things. So I really think that what we should really concern ourselves is the kind of sanctions that have been proposed against Senator Gloria Oroba. I think they're a bit draconian. We can shorten the term and make an apology. We come from a tradition that says that when you bite your tongue, you cannot spit out all the blood. You may have to swallow some. So let us swallow some of the blood. Let us punish, not to kill, but to correct. And I think that as a house, we owe it to ourselves to be our brothers' keepers. And I use the word brothers to include even women, but that's how the idiom is. You cannot modify an English idiom. So don't accuse me of being gender biased when I say to be a brother's keeper. What happened at the creation time, it was two brothers who fought. So I pray that I support this report. I pray that we adopt the report, but we modify the punishment. And I would recommend that the period of suspension be shorter, and that the apology be rendered not just to this House, but to the members of staff who are maligned. I think Mr. Nyegenye deserves a direct apology. A written apology, not just the House, because the House was not insulted. It was individuals who were insulted, and let us modify the report to include an apology directed at the staff members who were affected by the vitriol that spewed out from our sisters. It was not lip, it was our sister's fingers when she typed on the keyboard of her phone or whatever gadget she was using. With those few remarks, I support the report.
Senator Tobiko Pelis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and I arise to reject the report, Mr. Speaker, or to oppose the report, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do agree because of seeing on our WhatsApp pages, the kind of character and wordings that have been on the page from Senator Oroba, which is not fit, Mr. Speaker, for a leader at this level. But, Mr. Speaker, what I oppose in this report, Mr. Speaker, is a kind of punishment that's being meted on Senator Oroba. Mr. Speaker, I believe there was a better way for this House to deal with this matter. Even, Mr. Speaker, it should not have reached at this level for it to be on the floor of the House, for the entire public to be entertained with the kind of shenanigans that we have seen going on, Mr. Speaker. It's not good for Senator Oroba, neither is it good for the clerk, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House has an integrity, this House has some standards to maintain, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of things go on. And I just want to tell our younger sisters who are joining politics now that in the political field, you'll hear so much. You will go through so much. I'm not telling them to keep quiet, but I'm telling them to know the way to handle. Because the way you jump through the hurdles is what will determine your success tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our sister, Senator Gloria, had better ways of dealing with this. She should have appeared before the committee. She should have given evidence. But, Mr. Speaker, as earlier speakers have said, we do not know what exactly we are dealing with in terms of the mental health of our sister. Maybe she needs to be given time. Maybe she's dealing with bigger matters than even this one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the frustrations can be a lot, even from the kind of work we do, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would say that Senator Oruoba may not have handled herself in a way that is acceptable, but the punishment that is being meted here, Mr. Speaker, I think has gone overboard, Mr. Speaker. It is excessive, it is insensitive, it's inconsiderate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am not trying to, water down the effects of this on the clerk, Mr. Speaker. But I believe even the House leadership should have dealt with this matter better. That this was not meant for a public forum like this, Mr. Speaker. It was not meant to reach here, Mr. Speaker. The House leadership should have done better, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I arise to say that the punishment that is prescribed in this report is not fair, should not happen, and Mr. Speaker, better ways of dealing with this situation should be gotten, Mr. Speaker. But either way, Mr. Speaker, without telling ladies to be silent on what they go through, I would also tell our sisters that, people asking sexual favors will now depend completely on you, on whether you reject or accept. It is really upon you. What we would have gone to the rooftops, we would have gone to the top of KICC, is if our sister was sexually molested, raped taken advantage of without consent, Mr. Speaker. That one, we would have gone to the top of KICC to shout against. But without proof, we are put in a very awkward situation on how to defend her. We are put in a very awkward situation knowing that the clerk is a family person, and so is Senator Oruoba, Mr. Speaker. This House has not been given sufficient facts to be able to conclusively deal with this case, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, there was no way we could take the hammer against Senator Oruoba, neither were we going to tell her to be silent if she has gone through the kind of harassment that is alleged here, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will just tell the members of this House to consider fairly both the accused and the accuser, Mr. Speaker. That we should take our time to know really what the Honorable Senator has gone through. Because I don't believe in the right state of mind, she can just put wild allegations that do not hold water. Maybe the way she has approached the whole matter is what is a problem here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also don't imagine that the clerk with a reputation and a long-standing experience in this House, and there has never been any allegations, it is something that baffles. It's only the two of them that will be able to really come out clean on this matter. Either way, Mr. Speaker, the House leadership, according to me, the back lies with the House leadership. They have failed to really protect the integrity of this House by solving this matter at a very early stage, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I arise to oppose. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this motion that we least expected we'd use the floor of the Senate to discuss. Honorable Speaker, I want to begin by giving a short occurrence in my village and other villages, Honorable Speaker, that there are notorious women in my village who, when they beat their husbands, they make the loudest noise. And Honorable Speaker, even though the community knows that these women physically molest their husbands, when they do it, they're the first to come out of the buildings making the loudest noise. And Honorable Speaker, men equally have suffered in this country at the hands of women. And in most of organizations, Honorable Speaker, at my level, and I was young then, younger than even Senator Gloria and a number of us here. As old as we were once young. And in practice, Honorable Speaker, I do not see anybody here who doesn't have the capacity to say no when there are advances made against them. Because then why would they be here? Honorable Speaker, as I am a woman senator, but it is important that Kenyans take note that as women, we cannot continue to use the gender card to harass men left and right. And here we are talking about sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is not only limited to women and to men. Honorable Speaker, there are women who continuously harass men for sex. And if we went further, Honorable Speaker, we'd find a situation where the people making allegations are the ones harassing the men, even here, more. Honorable Speaker, who cannot say no? We want people to come out and say that I'm here and I'm not able to say no when there's an advance. And Honorable Speaker, we have serious issues to talk about in the Senate, and some of these issues are not the issues we are going to talk about. Honorable Speaker, this issue...
Order, members, order. Senator Mundigi, order.
Honorable Speaker, this is not the first
time that you are exhibiting are really, these men are very happy that you are able.
Honorable Speaker, I can tell you, given an opportunity and out of the floor here, you'll find that it is some of these women that are harassing these men. On the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker, this motion came up. And what were we treated to, Honorable Speaker? We respected the fact that our majority and minority leader came to stand down to the motion. Our expectation, Honorable Speaker, is this was going to be handled elsewhere. We did not expect that we are going to take weeks and then be treated to the same story. But now that it has come, let us say the truth. That women cannot continue, because you are women, to harass men over sex. And even though we keep on saying young what? Who is a child here? How did Honorable Speaker, how did we end up with children in the Senate? Honorable Speaker, once the minority leader and the minority leader came in, we saw what happened, because this motion, the content of discussion here has been an issue of a WhatsApp, an official WhatsApp communication. But what did we see as senators? The conversation continued from the same senator. And that is a sign that they was not ready to even go for mediation and even listen. Honorable Speaker, alternative dispute resolution is a mechanism enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya. But Honorable Speaker, if somebody is not ready to listen, if they are not ready to listen to leadership, to listen to anybody here, to listen to colleagues, what then do we do? But wise people say, Honorable Speaker, and that when you are in a hole, you should also stop digging. And Honorable Speaker, let me remind ourselves that as senators, I believe all of us signed the code of conduct, even with our parties are nominating parties. But this House is here to protect the Constitution. And the Constitution is very clear about leadership. Leadership and integrity. That talks about personal integrity. That talks about respect for others. That talks about a leader conducting themselves to bring dignity to the office that you hold. Honorable Speaker, is what the senator doing bringing any dignity to her office as a nominated senator or as to the Senate as a house? Honorable Speaker, the same Constitution talks about the rights. And the rights are not limited to women. The rights are limited to the rights of women and men. And it talks about equal rights to equal protection. Honorable Speaker, let us not delude ourselves that if you have had an opportunity to be a member of this House, thousands of Kenyans are out there that should have been here. And you want to behave as if you are above rules and laws. Honorable Speaker, leadership requires that you behave with decorum, that you respect each other, that you maintain some discipline, that you maintain some personal integrity. Honorable Speaker, I'm not saying that our sisters should be axed out of this Senate, but I'm saying that as senators, some of us came to the Senate by choice because we believed it is a house of order, a house of sobriety, a house of discipline, but not what we are seeing. Honorable Speaker, I support that motion, and as I support it, I want to say that Parliament should not be used as a house to seek attention. And if you are seeking attention, Honorable Speaker, I think you should seek it elsewhere and not a House of Parliament. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion, and I want to advise for anybody who listens, because a number of senators who think they are young and who believe we were never young once think they cannot listen to others. Honorable Speaker, I support this motion, and I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as I end, that alternative dispute resolution must be used as a mechanism of sorting out conflicts, but end up by saying, Honorable Speaker, we should stop digging holes when we are already in one. And Honorable Speaker, why I say this is that even after the allegations about the clerk, we have seen the same conflict move from officer to officer. We have seen the same conflict move from senator to senator. We have seen the same abuse directed to other senators. Are these not people who also have rights to protection? Honorable Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator David Wakoli.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii ambayo umenipa kuchangia katika mswada huu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya wanatazama kwa makini sana yale tunajadili. Wakenya wanajua fika kwamba walipigia viongozi timamu, watu wazima kura. Na hawakuchagua watu kwa sababu ya urembo, sura, ulimi, mate. Walichagua watu ambao wana akili timamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, hawezi kwamba mtu anapita barabarani, anatabasamu, anatembea katika barase za mji na katika majengo ya bunge, na binti mmoja ambaye anadhani kwamba ni mrembo kwa wote, anapomwona Banati anapita, anapiga nduru akisema ananimezea mate. Mheshimiwa, ni tabia mbovu. Umenke ama jinsia ya mtu haimpi ruhusu kudunisha mwingine. Yale tumeona kwenye mitandao, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kinaya sana. Mbunge, seneta anaandika matamshi ama maneno yasiyoweza someka na waseneta wenye hadhi na tajriba ambayo tumo hapa sasa. Nilikuwa katika vikao hivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Binti huyu amejipodoa sawa, amekuja na mawakili na majalada wamebeba mazito sawa, lakini ndani ya majalada haya hamna chochote kutisha maseneta kwamba ameleta mawakili. Wengine wetu ni walimu, si mawakili, lakini tunatumia hekima zaliwa ile tulaziliwa nayo. Na tulijadili tukaona huyu msichana anahitaji matibabu, madaktari wako hapa. Huo ni mtazamo wangu, Mheshimiwa Boni Khalwale. Either apewe dawa apone, ama kuna wale madaktari wa akili ambao watakaa naye wamsikize, kama ni nyimbo wamwimbie, kama ni maombi mabishop wako hapa wamuombee, ili jumba la Senate likose kuwa kicheko kwa Wakenya. Nimeona wa maseneta wanawake hapa ambao wanasahau kwamba watahitaji wanaume siku zijazo. Lazima wavumilie. Vijana kama mimi ambao tutataka kuongeza wake, lazima tuvumilie. Lakini si kwamba nikikutazama na kutaka, hapana, wenda na kuhurumia. Mheshimiwa, kule kwetu sema, ukimwona binti unapopita, mara unapiga milunzi na kila mara anageuka kutazama, anafikiria uenda mwanya katika midomo yake inakupendeza, kumbe ni tabia yake mbaya inakufanya unataka kukimbia kama umemwona nyoka. Ndio hayo ninaona katika jumba la Senate. Na ukimwona nyoka, toroka. Yale ambayo tumependekeza kama komiti na mamlaka na heshima ya bunge ni kali sawa, lakini unapoyavulia lazima uyaoge. Na muonea huruma, tunaweza punguza nusu. Lakini mwezi mmoja matibabu, alafu miezi miwili nje ya bunge. Hiyo ni miezi ngapi? 3. Na nyinyi mnajua mambo ni matatu. Mheshimiwa Spika, sitaki kupita hapo, lakini naomba maseneta tutembee pamoja, tufanye kazi pamoja, tuwe na heshima. Kiongozi kama Nyegenye amechukua miaka mingi, amesoma, ana tajriba, ana familia, ana hadhi, anatambulika kote ulimwenguni. Haiwezekani mtoto bado ananyonya anakuja kumpaka tope. Haiwezekani. Sasa sisi tutasimama na mapendekezo, na nadhani kwamba heshima itadumu katika jumba la Senate. Kwa hayo mengi, wanaume wenzangu, tukaze kamba. Tujitetee tunapotetea wanawake, lakini wasitumie ume wetu kama donda ambalo watafanyia mzaha. Na nikimalizia, yenye mnakumbuka kuna matamshi wamekuwa wakisema kama una kile kitu atikitumie kikupe kile unachotaka. Sijui ni kitu gani, nyinyi shangaeni tu, hata mimi nashangaa ni kitu gani. Lakini hicho kitu ni katiba. Tutumie, tujilinde, tujitetee, wanaume kwa wanawake. Jumba la Senate lisonge mbele. Asante sana.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums.
Karibu sana. Are you ready? I'm here for the tea, honey. Yeah.
Nibembeleze. Watu wanasemanga nimemkalia. Na ni ukweli sawa.
Most Google celebrity in this country. I was in a relationship where there was domestic abuse.
It's okay. Zainabu, I've not done anything wrong to anybody in my life. Usiniita punda ni wewe.
Whoa.
This is who I am. Like, put my guard up, so up. Call me fake one more time.
It's a cocktail of emotions. The puns that cracks up the family. Greed that yields power and a hunger for success. Friends turn to foes. Survival for the fittest is the drive.
Who are we blackmailing?